Welcome back to Curio Flow, everyone. It's time for another deep dive,
Yeah.
and this time we're going to be looking at cybersecurity,
Ooh,
which is a topic that I think a lot of podcast listeners have some curiosity about.
definitely.
We're all using all these devices all the time
Right.
to listen to our podcasts and to bank and to do all this stuff. And it can be a little unnerving to think about what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So to help us unpack all this,
Yes.
I've got an expert here with us today.
Very happy to be here.
So maybe we can start with, the basics.
Yeah.
When we talk about hacking, what do we even mean?
Right.
Like, what is hacking?
Well, I think hacking sometimes gets a bad rap because we think of it as this criminal activity.
Right.
But the way I like to define hacking is basically it's making something do what it's not designed to do.
Oh, okay.
So it's not always criminal. Sometimes it's about just being curious.
Right.
Or finding a new way to do something or, being creative.
So it's not always, breaking into computer systems or stealing data or something like that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, think about it this way. You have a toothbrush.
Right.
What do you do with a toothbrush?
You brush your teeth.
You brush your teeth, but you could also use that toothbrush to clean grout. You could use it to scrub a stubborn stain,
Ah.
maybe even to prop open a window
Right. Right.
in a pinch.
It's a tool that can be used in multiple ways.
Exactly. You're making it do something that it's not initially designed to do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like hacking.
Okay. I like that definition a lot because it kind of takes away some of that, scariness around it.
Yeah,
It can be, pretty impressive when you think about what some hackers can do.
totally.
And that's why I think it makes it even more important to understand, what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously not all hackers are created equal. There's a whole spectrum, right?
Totally, yeah.
Like, who are the different players in this world?
Right. Well, you have everything from state-sponsored hackers to individuals who may be motivated by personal vendettas.
Okay.
Even like hacker as a service, which is a whole other thing.
Wait, hacker as a service?
I know.
What is that? Like, can I order a hack like I'm ordering takeout?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, obviously I don't recommend it, but
Yeah.
you can find all sorts of things on the dark corners of the internet.
Okay.
You can infiltrate social media accounts, launch denial of service attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything you can think of for a price.
Wow. Okay. That's a little unsettling, but let's zoom out for a second and go back to those state-sponsored hackers.
Yeah.
The ones that are
Yeah.
like hacking, governments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are they up to?
I mean, these are like the elite special forces of the cyber world.
Right.
They are highly skilled individuals,
Mm-hmm.
often backed by a lot of resources. They have big geopolitical agendas.
So it's like digital espionage
Yes.
on a grand scale.
Exactly.
So, what are some examples of what these kinds of hackers do?
Well, you might remember the Cosmos Bank hack in India a few years back, where millions of dollars were taken through ATMs worldwide.
Mm.
And they think that was a North Korean group,
Wow.
a state-sponsored group
Okay.
that did that.
So how do they even do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do these attacks happen?
Well, they use a lot of different techniques, but one that's really effective is what's called lateral movement.
Okay.
So think of a network, like a big building,
Okay.
and they get in through a side door, maybe a weak password or a phishing email,
Okay.
and then they move laterally. They go from room to room.
So they get in and then they kind of
They get deeper and deeper.
work their way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these groups are really good at it.
Mhm.
There was a report a while ago, the Mandant report,
Right.
and it talked about how big China's cyber army is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they think there are thousands of people
Thousands of people.
dedicated to this kind of thing.
Wow. That's just mind-boggling.
It is.
So, I mean, speaking of China, they've actually been cracking down on data privacy in their country.
They have.
But then at the same time, they're engaging in cyber espionage all over the world.
It's true.
It's kind of a paradox.
Yeah, it is a very paradox.
I mean, it just shows you how complicated all this is
It really does.
and how much we don't know,
Yeah,
about what's going on behind the scenes.
exactly. Yeah, it's a fascinating world for sure. But it also makes you think about, the motivations behind these attacks.
Right.
It's not always just about stealing data or disrupting services.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's about gaining some kind of strategic advantage,
Right.
maybe planting disinformation,
Okay.
or even just showing off a bit,
Right. Like flexing their cyber muscles.
Exactly.
So they're playing a high-stakes game of chess, basically.
Yeah, you could say that.
But in the digital realm,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not just governments and corporations that are being targeted, though, right?
Right.
I mean, individuals are increasingly becoming targets, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings me to something that I've been thinking about a lot.
Yeah.
This whole idea of the illusion of privacy.
Mhm.
Like, how much privacy do we really have in this digital age?
It's a good question, and I think a lot of people are struggling with that right now.
Yeah.
Our online activities leave a much bigger footprint than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
Every website we visit, every search we make, every post we like,
Right.
it all gets collected and analyzed.
So it's not just about those targeted ads that follow us around.
No, those are just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
They can use this data to build really detailed profiles of our habits, our preferences, even our vulnerabilities.
Right.
And it's not just companies that are doing this.
Right.
Governments are using surveillance technologies to monitor online activity too.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is getting a little creepy now.
Yeah, it can be a little unnerving for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just about what we share intentionally either.
Right.
Our devices are constantly collecting data too, through sensors, GPS microphones even.
I remember that story a few years ago about that fitness tracker app
Oh, yeah.
that was mapping the locations of secret military bases.
Exactly.
Just because of the
Okay.
data that it was collecting.
Yeah, they weren't even trying to do that.
Wow. So we're being tracked even when we're not actively using our devices.
To a certain extent, yes. And this data can reveal a lot more than you think.
Okay.
Like researchers have shown that they can analyze the way we type on our phone
Mm-hmm.
and identify us with a pretty high degree of accuracy.
Wow. Okay, I'm starting to get a little paranoid now.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But it's important to be aware of what's happening
Right.
and to make conscious choices about what we share.
So awareness is key.
Yeah.
But is there anything we can actually do to protect our privacy?
Sure, there are a few things you can do.
Okay.
First of all, be mindful of the apps you're downloading
Mm-hmm.
and the permissions you're giving them.
Okay.
Do you really need that flashlight app to have access to your contacts?
Right, right.
And you're looking...
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of just clicking allow without thinking about it.
We all do it.
Yeah.
But it's worth taking a minute to really think about it.
Okay, so be more mindful about the permissions we're giving apps.
Exactly. Use a VPN.
A VPN.
Yeah, a virtual private network.
Okay.
It encrypts your internet traffic and masks your IP address.
So it makes it harder to track me.
Exactly.
Okay, VPN, got it. Anything else?
Be careful about public Wi-Fi.
Public Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's often unsecured,
Okay.
which means hackers can easily intercept your data.
Oh, no.
So if you have to use public Wi-Fi, make sure you're on a website that uses HTTPS.
HTTPS.
Yeah, encrypts your data.
Okay, so it's like adding extra layers of protection.
Exactly.
Like building a digital fortress
exactly.
around your information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we talked about individuals being targets.
Yeah?
What are some of the most common threats that we should be aware of?
Well, ransomware is a big one.
Ransomware.
Yeah, it's a type of malware that locks up your files and demands a ransom to unlock them.
Oh gosh, so like all my photos, all my documents.
Everything
Yeah.
encrypted, inaccessible.
What if you don't pay?
Well, a lot of times you just lose your data permanently.
Oh no, that's my worst nightmare.
It's like a digital kidnapping.
Oh gosh, okay. So what can we do to protect ourselves from ransomware?
Well, the best defense is prevention.
Okay,
Keep your software updated,
right.
be wary of suspicious links and attachments,
Mm-hmm.
and back up your data regularly.
Backups.
Backups are key,
Okay, got it.
because if you do get infected, at least you'll have a copy of your files somewhere safe.
Okay, what other threats should we be looking out for?
Phishing scams are still really common.
Phishing scams.
Yeah, those emails or messages that look like they're from your bank or a social media platform,
Yeah.
but they're not.
Yeah.
They're designed to trick you into giving up your personal information.
So they're playing on our trust
Exactly.
and our desire to be helpful.
Yeah, and they're getting more sophisticated all the time.
So how can we spot them?
Well, a lot of times the email address or the link they send will be a little bit off.
Okay.
It might be a misspelled domain name or a URL that looks almost right but has a few extra characters.
Okay.
So always double check those things.
Got it.
And be suspicious of any unsolicited emails that ask for your personal information.
Okay, so be vigilant.
Yes, vigilance is key.
Okay, so what about those hacker as a service operations that we talked about?
Right.
How do they fit into all of this?
Well, they give people a way to launch attacks without needing a lot of technical skills.
Oh, wow.
It's like outsourcing your cybercrime.
Okay, so who are the typical customers for this kind of service?
It could be anyone, really.
Okay.
Disgruntled employees, jealous ex-partners, people with grudges.
So it's not always about money.
No, it can be motivated by all sorts of things.
Wow. Okay, this is a lot to process.
It is.
It's kind of overwhelming.
I know, but the more we understand about these threats, the better we can protect ourselves.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
So speaking of power, let's shift gears a bit and talk about cyber warfare.
Okay.
What does that landscape look like these days?
It's a constantly evolving battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
The lines between physical and digital warfare are getting blurrier and blurrier.
Can you give us some examples of what cyber warfare might look like?
Well, imagine an attack that takes down a country's power grid.
Okay.
Millions of people plunged into darkness.
Wow.
Or maybe an attack that disrupts financial markets,
Right.
causing economic chaos.
Okay, so this is some serious stuff.
It is.
Sounds like something out of a movie.
I know it's a sobering thought,
Yeah.
but these are very real threats.
So we're not just talking about protecting our data and our devices anymore.
Right.
We're talking about national security,
Absolutely.
economic stability, the very fabric of our society.
That's right.
Okay, this is getting pretty intense.
It is.
I need to take a deep breath for a second.
Take a deep breath.
So how do we even begin to defend ourselves against these kinds of attacks?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
It requires a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
Governments, corporations, and individuals all working together.
So it's a collective effort?
It is. We're all in this together.
Okay, so we need to work together.
Yes.
And it starts with awareness.
Exactly.
Okay, well, you've given us a lot to think about today.
I hope so.
It's been a really insightful conversation.
Good.
Before we wrap up, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What does the future of cybersecurity look like?
Well, it's hard to say for sure because the field is evolving so rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
But one trend that I'm really interested in is the use of AI in cybersecurity.
AI in cybersecurity.
Yeah, so imagine a system that can analyze huge amounts of data in real time,
Okay.
detecting patterns and anomalies that humans would never be able to see.
Wow.
These AI-powered systems are already being used to block malicious activity.
So it's like having a digital guardian angel.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
But, of course, it's not a perfect solution.
Right.
As AI gets more sophisticated, hackers will find new ways to get around it.
Right, so it's an arms race.
It is.
But ultimately, the future of cybersecurity depends on us,
Yes.
on human ingenuity and
Yeah.
collaboration.
Hmm.
Okay, I love that.
Good.
So we're back for the final part of our deep dive into cybersecurity. And, it's been a fascinating conversation so far.
Sure has.
I'm really curious to hear what you think about some of these listener questions that we've gotten.
Oh, yeah. Fire away.
Okay, so this one comes from @DataPrivacyNow, and they ask, will we see data privacy departments in all organizations in the future?
That's a great question, and I think it's becoming more and more relevant, as data privacy regulations get stricter around the world.
Right.
I mean, some countries are already requiring it for certain industries.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, my prediction is that we're going to see dedicated data privacy departments
Okay.
and even chief privacy officers becoming pretty standard in most organizations.
That makes sense. I mean, data is such a valuable asset these days.
It is.
And companies need to protect it,
Absolutely.
not just from outside threats, but from misuse within their own walls.
It's all about building a culture of responsibility around data.
Right.
It's not just about complying with regulations. It's about building trust
Exactly.
with your customers and your stakeholders.
Okay, so here's another one. This one comes from @SecurityConscious.
Okay.
What are the new potential risks to someone whose behavior can be tracked through data?
That's a good one. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
About the illusion of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
As technology gets better and data collection gets more sophisticated,
Right.
the risks of behavioral tracking really multiply.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about the possibility of manipulation,
Yeah.
discrimination, even social engineering.
Based on your digital footprint.
Exactly.
Wow. So it's not just about targeted ads anymore?
No, not at all.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, what could this look like?
Well, imagine a scenario where your health insurance premiums go up
Okay.
because of your browsing history,
What?
or your loan application gets denied
Hmm.
because your social media activity suggests that you're a high-risk borrower.
Oh, wow. That's kind of scary.
It is. It's like something out of a Black Mirror episode.
He really is.
That line between science fiction and reality
Right.
is getting blurrier all the time.
So we really need to be aware of these potential risks
We do.
and advocate for responsible data governance.
Absolutely.
Okay, last question. This comes from @FutureOfCyber.
Okay.
Do you think that frauds have decreased now because everything has an identity and is linked to something like Aadhaar?
Well, That's a complicated issue.
Yeah.
Systems like Aadhaar can definitely help prevent some types of fraud,
Mm-hmm.
especially identity theft.
Right.
But it's not a perfect solution.
So it's a step in the right direction,
It is.
but not a cure-all.
Exactly. Fraudsters are always coming up with new tactics.
Right. They're always finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities.
So what can we do?
What can we do?
Yeah, I mean, as individuals to protect ourselves.
Well, I think it goes back to what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Stay informed about the latest threats.
Right.
Be proactive.
Yeah.
Instead of reactive.
Be proactive, not reactive.
And remember that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility.
We're all in this together.
We are.
I love that curiosity is a shield.
I like that.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
And it really sums up what CurioFlow is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Exploring these complex topics, challenging assumptions,
Absolutely.
empowering our listeners with knowledge.
That's what it's all about.
Oh, it's been a pleasure having you here today.
It's been great talking to you.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of cybersecurity.
Stay safe out there.
Remember, staying informed is the first step to staying safe.
That's right. So until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and keep those podcasts playing